Let's consider the WAEC 2026 practical. Now, if you are writing this exam, maybe you're a student or a teacher that is also preparing students for WAEC Practical Chemistry 2026, now you have to pay attention to this that I'm saying. Now, if you are carrying out these practicals, there are some things that you need to take note of. If you carry out, probably you are given the salt, you are given the salt and you're also given a reagent. If you add each of them, you're supposed to know exactly the observation that you're going to see and inference. It's all about seeing and observation. You might observe something and what you observe is actually wrong. And you might be thinking that what you saw is the correct thing and you now wrote it. So you have to have an idea that each of these reagents added to the sample that is given to you, what is it going to give you? Now, before we proceed now, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Also, click on the notification bell icon to know when I upload a new video. Okay, without wasting much time, let's get started. For this 2026 practical chemistry, you are given a sample C, and this sample C contains two things. And what sample C, what does it contain? We are asked to provide two things. It's a mixture of lead carbonate, CO3, lead carbonate, and starch. Is a mixture of both. So this is a mixture of both, that is lead carbonate and starch. That is exactly what we have here now for this sample C that is given to you now. So normally, before I start talking about this practical, you have to bear one thing in mind. Lead carbonate is insoluble in water. First of all, lead carbonate is insoluble in water, and also starch is also insoluble in water. Now you might be wondering, what is the target? What is their target, or what are they targeting? They are doing what they call test for ions. And what are the ions that we're talking about now? The ions that we're going to talk about is, first of all, we have the first ion as a lead ion. We have lead ion, so we're going to be talking about lead ion in this. Then another thing we're going to talk about is another ion is what we call the triazo carbonate 4 ion, CO3 ion, CO3 carbonate 4 ion. This is the second ion. So we have the first one, lead ion, carbonate ion. And then another thing they are trying to test in this practical is what we call test for starch. So these are the three major things that they want to test in this practical. So if you are writing something else, you should know that if whatever you are writing does not buttress or does not focus on these three things, you are writing out of point. You know, the problem we have is that most times students will be busy, maybe copying from each other. Maybe when they do the practical, they observe something else and they wrote something else. If you're actually writing anything and whatever you're writing does not categorize or fall under these three, you are out of it. All right, now before we get started in this now, let me just show you some samples. Let me just carry out this practical. Maybe you have done it. If you are carrying out these practicals, what exactly are we going to see? Now let's start from the first one now. You know, we have what we call, we basically go to have what we call the tests. Then aside the tests, we also have what we call the observation, and the last part is what we call your inference. Okay, so as a student writing this exam, or as a teacher teaching your students writing this exam, they are going to create this table. And please, if I am explaining this, I'll be pointing out at some things that you need to know. This table, you're expected to create it using your pen. You know, for chemistry, you are being warned to write in ink, not in pencil. So if you mistakenly now decide to create this with pencil, later to correct, it's probably going to redraw. It's another issue. You are not expected to use your pencil to do this. You are expected to use only pen to draw this table. Okay, let's start with the first one. Okay, now you are given a sample C, and the color of the sample that is given to you, the color is always white. Not always, it's white. You see it white. Now, assuming they say that you should put this sample C, and you're asked to add water to it, whether they say water or they say distilled water, any of them, what is going to be your observation? What observation are you expected to write? Now I'll tell you. Now the observation you're going to write is what? C remains what? C remains what? Undissolved. C remains what? Undissolved. Now this is what you expected to write, because C is not soluble, remains undissolved. Or somebody else can also say that C is insoluble in distilled water. So you can say C remains undissolved in water. You can say C remains undissolved remains undissolved in water, or you can say that C is insoluble in water. That is okay. And that simply means that sample C, okay, C is what? Is an insoluble what now? Compound. Now, so it's just an insoluble compound. It's just an insoluble compound. Now, somebody may be wondering, why didn't I include the word mixture? Well, maybe if I read the instruction, if they say that it's a mixture, it depends on the instruction. Whether if they say that it's a mixture of inorganic compound, I can use the word insoluble. I can use the word insoluble mixture there if I want to. But this is okay. This is enough. Now, since this is not soluble now, let's try something else. Assuming they say that you should, maybe they didn't use water this time around, and the question says, C, you are giving your sample C, sample C, and they ask you to add dilute HNO3. Even HCl can also do that. HCl can also do that. What is going to be your observation? So let's say this sample C, remember that your C is a mixture of lead carbonate, that is lead 2-triazocarbonate 4, and starch. So that is a mixture of both of them. Now they say that C plus dilute HNO3. What is going to be your observation, or what are you going to observe? Now the next thing you are going to write, please pay attention to this. What you're going to write is what now? Effervescence occurred. This is a point. This point has a mark. So you write effervescence occurred. This has a mark now. Okay, now the next thing you're going to write is you now say that a colorless, odorless gas evolved. Okay, so that's the next thing you're going to write. I'll prefer you should write all the information that you need to write. Okay, gas turned what? Lime water. This is lime water. Milky, and turned. Okay, so let me just stop here. Sorry, I meant this. Turn lime water what? Milky. So let's stop here now. Now, this effervescence that you wrote here is 1 mark. A colorless, odorless gas, which also show you, is also another mark. And this to confirm what the gas is also another mark. So you expected not to just write effervescence. No, include other points, because if they are going to rate you, this is 1 mark. The colorless gas is another mark, and gas turned, to confirm that the nature of the gas or what kind of gas it is another mark. So this is automatically 3 marks if they're going to talk about the gas. Now, what are you going to say under the inference now? Gas is what? Carbon dioxide from what? Now, what exactly is going to give you this gas? Now, what ions can give you this ion? From where now? You can say from CO3 2 minus, comma, and you now say HCO3 minus, you say present. Now, let me warn you against something. If you are a student writing this exam, please pay attention to this now. Your C and O must be in capital letter. Bear it in mind that if you dare write something like this, you are wrong. This is wrong. This is actually wrong. Whenever we're marking this exam, you will see a lot of students making a lot of these mistakes. Instead of them to write something like this, now they wrote something like this. Remember, when I started this class, I warned, if you are to write this now, always write in ink, not in pencil. That is the first warning I gave, to avoid unnecessary mark subtraction because of the pencil of there, because the instruction says write in ink. Now, another warning I'm going to give you is make sure that if you're writing in capital letter, everything should be in capital letter. The C and O should be equal. Then another argument, okay, I'll bring up that argument later. Okay, let's clean up this now. You see now my C and O are equal. HCO3, they are equal. That is your capital letter. You should write it very well. And you see the way it's been written. Another challenge we have is, you see a student, this is 3. Instead of them to write CO3 this way, they will now write something like this. What is this? So be careful and avoid unnecessary mistakes that will make you to lose your marks. This class that I'm doing is all about teaching you the practical. I'm also warning you how to write. And if you have any of your friends getting ready for this exam, share this video to them so that they also learn how to write the exam as well. It's not about doing the practical. It's all about presenting your work very well. Because if you cannot present your work very well, at the end of the day, you lose some marks. Okay, so let's proceed now. Okay, so we've done this now. Then this is not all. This is not all that is going to occur here. Now, what next is going to occur? Assuming I say after that now, you should filter. Even though they did not include filter, you should bear it in mind that aside this effervescence, something else is going to happen. Okay, so what is going to happen now? That your C will dissolve, C dissolves, apparently, C will dissolve, C dissolves, the C will dissolve, C dissolves, okay, to give water, to give a colorless what? Filtrate, colorless filtrate, and what you call what now? And white residue. Please be careful. Always state all this is carefully, because all these C's that you see that I'm writing, they have their own marks. You know, there's a way we mark an examination, or the way the examiners mark. The way they mark is that they point out these are the keywords that you need to include. So colorless filtrates, very important. If you are to tell us now, it's not about saying colorless solution. Okay, it's not about saying solution. I mean, it's not about to give us solution. No, you must tell us that solution that you're talking about, the filter that you're talking about, the proper word is filtrate, because you're going to filter. Now, the filter that you're going to talk about, is it colorless or does it have any color? So you should tell us that. So it's very important you note those information. So you now see that when we use dilute HNO3, that our C dissolved. So now from this, now what does it mean now? Okay, you can write your inference, because this time when using HNO3, remember we made use of water, it remained undissolved. But when we made use of HNO3, what happened now? C dissolved. So you now see that C is a mixture of soluble in HNO3. Okay, so we say that C is a mixture. Okay, we can say C is a mixture of soluble and insoluble. The only one that is insoluble what now? Compound or salts compound. So the only thing that is insoluble here is what you call the starch. But for the lead carbonate was able to react, or was able to dissolve, give effervescence and form a new substance. So that is it now. All right. Now the next thing we're going to do is that since we have done this thing now, they might now ask you, this is your filtrate now, you should divide it into, let's say, 3 portions or 4 portions, depending on how many portions you are asked to get now. Maybe the first filtrates, add sodium hydroxide. If you get that first filtrate and add sodium hydroxide, what is it going to give you? Remember that for the first one now, when we did this now, lead carbonates, according to the reaction now, when we reacted this lead carbonates plus HNO3, automatically we are going to have lead nitrates, okay, lead NO3 plus we have a H2O plus carbon 4 oxide. Carbon 4 oxide was given off, so you have a new substance form over there. So we have lead nitrates, okay. So lead nitrates being formed, and we have water, and carbon 4 oxide is being given off. So we have taken note of this carbon 4 oxide. We have taken note of this carbon 4 oxide as the effervescence. Now this lead nitrate, which is also soluble in water, that's why I say dissolves. It's also soluble. It's soluble. I mean, which is soluble. So you now see that we say that it dissolves, which is the one that gave you the colorless filtrates. But for the one that gave you the white residue is the starch. So let's look at the filtrates now. Now, assuming you were asked to bring the filtrate into, divide it, I said it before, into 4 portions or 3 portions, or depending on the number of portions. So let's look at what is going to happen if we do that now. Okay, let's say we have our filtrates. Let's say first portion of our filtrates, any portion, maybe they ask you to divide it into 3 portions, like I said before, maybe 2 cm of it. Filtrates plus sodium hydroxide, aqueous sodium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide solution in drops. What is going to be my observation? The observation you're going to write, I would advise you write accordingly. For the student, write accordingly. So me, you know, this is my paper. This is my piece of paper. It has a lot of lines. So I probably, you know, this is my paper. I'm just rolling to show students something. Now in drops, what is it going to be? I will just say white PPT, or white precipitate. Okay, let me write in full. White precipitates, precipitates. Now, let me warn you as a student or someone else writing this exam. Please, if you do not know how to spell precipitate, use the word PPT to be on a safer side. If you don't know how to spell precipitate, use the word PPT. It is also correct. So what is going to be my inference? My inference is going to be what now? Lead ion and calcium ion. Now let me warn you. Now this is how to write your lead ion. Lead ion. It's not going below the line. Someone may be wondering, but it's not necessary that we need to take note of all this. Please take note of it. Some examiners are so mean that they will tell you that this is not capital letter. By the time you now wrote something like this beyond the line, they will now argue with you that it's not capital letter. So you are not the one marking your exams. You are to write properly. Write very well so that the examiner will not see anything to argue against you. So be careful. So what you're going to do is make sure that you are writing this your capital letter. You shouldn't go beyond your line. This is your line. You shouldn't go beyond your line. This is capital P. Even though you wrote something like this, maybe you wrote something like, even though you wrote something like this is also capital P because it shouldn't go beyond your line. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is say comma. It's either use comma or use or. Don't use and. You can use comma, you can use or, you can use slash. Don't use and. So another thing that can also give you that is what we call calcium ion. Then to be honest, I will just write present. You just write present. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to say is in excess. In excess, you will now see the way I'm writing my excess now. In excess, what happened now? Okay, PPT dissolved, precipitate dissolved, precipitate dissolved. Now be careful. Some examiners are not patient enough to maybe you now wrote. Now let me just tell you exactly what some examiner does. Now you probably wrote this YPPT. Maybe you wrote it on top here. Then PPT dissolved. Probably you wrote it here instead of you to write it alongside where it is in excess. Some examiners are not patient enough to start looking for those answers for you. Automatically they will score you 0. Some are not patient enough. Some might neglect it, while some we argue that in excess, you're supposed to provide the answer in excess. Take note of this. We argue with you that in excess, you should provide you wrote in excess, you should provide the answer alongside. Not providing the answer in excess along where you wrote in drops. You shouldn't. So some of them will argue this. And when they argue it, some of them can score you 0, some can neglect it. So be careful and avoid unnecessary loss of mark. Okay, so now what is it going to be now? I'll just say my lead ion what? Present. Now let me warn you against something. For those of you that has a very poor writing, whereby instead of them to write plus this way, they will automatically give you something like this. Some students are very funny. Now, this is another argument for an examiner. An examiner might start arguing that this is actually not plus, this is T. And automatically you lose your mark. So you should be very, very careful. It's all about doing the practical. It's all about presenting your work very, very well and avoid unnecessary mistakes. So what am I going to do is, this is going to be what? This is going to be 2 plus this way. Write plus very well. Upper script, write very well. Okay? All right. Now, the next one I'm going to do is, let's say we got another filtrate. And this filtrate that we got now, another filtrate, and the filtrate, remember the word, if they say the word filtrate, or maybe another portion, that portion that you filtered is your filtrate, another portion, and they say you should add your ammonia, aqueous ammonia in drops. What is it going to give you now? White PPT. Let me use the word PPT here. You see, I don't know how to spell PPT like precipitates. I've decided to use PPT. Precipitate and PPT, they're all correct. So I said in drops, why PPT? What is going to be my inference now? Lead ion present. Like I said, always write very well. For those of you that have poor writing, be careful of this. Then how about in excess? In excess, what is it going to be now? PPT what? PPT dissolved. Sorry. What is it going to be in excess now? Okay, PPT remains undissolved. So remains what? Undissolved. Sorry. So PPT remains undissolved. And the ion is still the same what? Lead ion present. So that is it. So this is exactly what we have here now. Okay. What if we still also proceeded with other ones? You know, someone might argue that I'm supposed to include the serial numbers. Yes, there is a serial number that we have here. Whether you're writing your 2AI, yes, you should include it. 2AII, you should include it I neglected it in my own. You can include it, but it doesn't really matter to the examiner whether you included it or not. The only thing the examiner wants to know is, what test are you going for? Okay, you're going for the test of in drops, and what is your observation? Where is the observation? Is it YPPT or PPT remains undissolved? Now, you went to the place that you're supposed to write in drops. I mean, in drops, the place you're supposed to write YPPT, and you now wrote PPT remains undissolved. That is where the examiner will have problem with you. That is the argument an examiner will have. So you should be careful, because those serial numbers are not too necessary. Okay, so let's go over which other test are you going to do. Now let's just say filtrate. Let's say filtrate plus, let's say, okay, let's continue. Now, assuming we have something like filtrates plus, let's say, dilute HCl. Let's say plus dilute HCl. Let's say we're adding dilute HCl, aqueous HCl, aqueous. What are we going to have now? If you add dilute HCl to this now, what are you going to have? You're going to have your white precipitates, and that shows that what we have here now, lead ion is what? Present. So if you add that now, so what if you also continue plus heat? You also heat it. And assuming you are asked for heat, they can use the word heat or they can use the word warm, either of those things now. Now you heat it now, what happened now? PPT dissolved on heating. PPT dissolved on heating. So the PPT will dissolve. It just simply means that the ion that will be present is what you call lead ion will also be present. Then reappears, the PPT reappears on cooling. So if you remove the heat, it reappears on cooling. And what does that ensure? Again, now, it's also confirmed that our lead ion is what? Present. Lead ion confirmed. So our lead ion is what? Present in it. So it's now confirmed the presence of lead ion. Okay, finally, what are we going to do? We are done with our residue, because the residue now, you discover that we decided to divide it into 3 portions, and we now made use of all of them. Now, how about the residue? Now, let's look at the residue. Okay, the residue. Let's say the residue that we have. We have the filtrate and the residue. The residue plus what are we going to have now? Iodine solution. The residue plus iodine solution. What are we going to have here now? We're going to have blue-black solution. So we are going to have a blue-black. Sorry, we're going to have a blue-black what? Coloration. Okay, so we're going to observe a blue-black coloration. Okay, blue-black coloration what? Formed. So what does that mean? It just simply means that what now? Stash. Okay, stash is. Now my question is, well, the best thing I basically do is, most times if I'm not sure of confirmed, I can just easily write present. For a student that is writing, if you are not sure whether it's going to be present or confirmed, our advice is just write it present. If you are not sure of any, just write present instead of you writing confirmed where you're not supposed to write confirmed. If you dare write confirmed where you're supposed to write present, you are your own. You'll be punished, or you'll be punished now. You'll be penalized. I mean, so you say, let's say confirmed. So that's also confirmed. This is ED. So that is it now. All right. Now this is where I'm going to draw the curtain for this practical. So you should take your pen and paper and write out these things and study them. By the time you read each of them, you see the way I do write them. You see the way I follow them line by line. Follow them as well whenever you're writing your own. If you find this video helpful, let me know. If you find this video helpful, let me know in the comment section. If you also have questions to ask, drop your questions in the comment section. And if you have something to say or something to add, you can also drop that in your comment section. Don't forget to share this video to your friends so that they will understand how to write practical chemistry too, so that they won't lose any mark in their examination. Okay, I'm going to see you in the next one. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about titration, how to present your table, your calculations, what you're going to avoid and what not to avoid whenever you are doing your presentation of titration. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.